Hello, my name is Peregrine. Obviously, when it comes to Overwatch, the most important characters are the heroes, the playable characters of the game. But not every character in the Overwatch universe is playable, leading to some NPC characters that go incredibly unnoticed by the community despite how important they are to the story. These characters also have the potential to become heroes in the future, so I wanted to make a mini-series inspired by a comment that I unfortunately cannot find at the moment about the background characters of the games, both important and unimportant, to help spread the word of the world building that the team has done. This video series would probably in future be going over 3 or 4 characters per video, however this one is so unbelievably important to the story I think he deserves his own video. So firstly, the most notable and important NPC in my opinion, Maximillion. If you're an Overwatch fan, you will have seen Maximillion a few times without realising, since he's appeared in a lot of Overwatch media like cutscenes, the skin shop that has his name and voice, and even has its own featured short story. No other non-playable character has. But since he isn't in the game himself as a hero, many don't know him that well. Put simply, Maximillion is an Omnic, probably the most human Omnic as he desires money and power more than anything else. He is obsessed with the high of watching bank account numbers rise and being able to do anything you want, like owning the entire city of Monte Carlo. He started as an accountant but came to realise how efficient he could be at manipulating people and laundering money, using 2 prominent locations that are both actually escort maps, so even though he isn't relevant to the game enough to be a hero, 2 maps are Maximillion dedicated, this being Havana and Circuit Royale, with Havana being the base for his rum company and Circuit Royale ending inside his casino. If you aren't aware of what money laundering is, it is the process of making illegally gained money appear legitimate by putting it through businesses. For example, if a person with no recorded job suddenly deposits large amounts of undeclared money into their account, it is automatically flagged by banks as suspicious and then passed on to the police or other law enforcement agencies. However, if you own a business, for example, the money looks a lot more legitimate as you can falsify the records and say, look, I just had a lot of customers who pay well. So when you are running a major criminal enterprise like Talon, for example, and profit massively off very illegal things like large-scale heists, human and drug trafficking, bounty hunting, you need a way to make this money appear not suspicious and harder to trace, with high-end casinos being a brilliant means to launder money due to the extreme amount of money they make and the extreme amounts that rich people tend to regularly lose on the tables for no reason. The launderer can then send the money back to the people who wanted it cleaned, with a nice little cut for their troubles of course. In exchange for this incredibly important part of the operation, Max has a large sway in deciding what Talon does and doesn't do as an organisation, and can use Talon's own personal army to ensure that the city of Monte Carlo remains his. It seems that Max wasn't always like this though. Like I said, he started off as just an accountant, then over a decade he worked his way up the ladder until he was a financial advisor for nearly every major company in Monte Carlo, tricking all of them into signing over their funds to his company, essentially monopolising an entire city. Fucking over the most powerful people is all well and good, until one of them has a Talon connection and they send assassins after you. Now, the first assassins didn't exactly function properly, but the second time Talon were like, okay, we'll send Doomfist. Yes, Akande himself went to go murk Max, until they both came to a much more profitable agreement because just like Doomfist, you can reason with Max fairly easily. Unlike other characters, Max is loyal to no one and no cause other than making money. This is demonstrated during the Storm Rising event where Overwatch agents captured Max and he folded instantly like a fucking napkin. And Max gave Overwatch Doomfist's location in exchange for not arresting him and not telling Doomfist how he found the location. He then betrayed Doomfist again by joining Vendetta's takeover of Talon when he realised that Talon were teaming up with Null Sector for an upcoming war, as he knows that Talon are probably most likely going to join a war that's not profit for him, so you get rid of Doomfist, you get rid of the war. The sheer lack of Max's loyalty even extends to his own race. Much like an Argentinian with a suspiciously German-sounding name, Max is indifferent to the suffering of his own kind and will often fund said suffering if it makes a financial return. Although Max takes orders like a dog and is massively conflict adverse, he is possibly one of the most frightening villains in Overwatch with shocking levels of intelligence hidden behind the facade of a timid and submissive guy. We'll learn through Freya's introduction that Max set up an elaborate scheme baiting Freya into a confrontation with him to make sure she has the skills necessary to capture Emre and whatever he is possessed by for reasons we currently don't know, suggesting Maximillion has some sort of connection to the conspiracy or is at least aware of it, making him one of 1% of people who even know what that means. It could be possible that later down the line, Max's personality and like his entire persona had been intricately crafted for a greater purpose, since with the ascension of Aurora, it doesn't seem impossible for the god AIs, even when turned off, could also have the potential to gain sentience as well, with Max being either one of them or perhaps a vessel, in the same way that Emre is seemingly a vessel for the Chernobyl. Now, about the title and the thumbnail and everything. I'm sure you're wondering why. I mean, obviously yes, clickbait, but once you get down to the nitty-gritty of it, there is actually a pretty reasonable chance that Maximillion is in fact based on Epstein. The stories are shockingly similar in some places. The methods in which Max used to gain control of incredibly powerful people is quite similar to the ways Epstein did, using his position as a submissive lapdog-like financier to gain leverage and power over them, then eventually using this power to own an entire section of land where laws do not apply to them and they cannot be touched by any law enforcement because they are a member of a much more powerful entity and society, with the final goal of creating wars. Now, of course, this isn't perfect. Epstein used blackmail, while Max used the funds of the incredibly powerful people he had signed over him. And Max is actually a self-made man instead of being an industry-planted financier, but there is no doubt that these stories are shockingly similar. And, to be fair, judging by the age of most of the people at Blizzard, they were most likely teenagers or young adults when the 2008 Sweetheart deal was made, which was a complete outrage to the youth of America. So it wouldn't be too shocking to hear that this concept lingered in the back of their minds without realising and accidentally made Robo-Epstein. But, you know, that's all well and good. It's just a funny little theory, a game theory, thanks for watching. And now, as I am legally obliged to do, I would like to thank my members. Cameron Wilson Fan, Cherry Ball, God Noodles, Lord Grecos, Persistent, Despair, Zoe, Gothic Dino, Slighter Rex, The Perhapsy, and Waffles. Waffles? Yeah, that sounds about right. Thank you for your continued support, and I will see you at some point in the future. And I'm going to wait just a few more seconds so the video can pass 8 minutes. Oh, fuck, I love 8 minutes. I love 8 minutes, Charlie. I love mid-rolls, Charlie. I love mid-rolls.